everybody. Welcome to July's Community Wise podcast. I am Holly Long, your host. And today we have Mr. Mark Irvin with us. Welcome, Mark.
Well, hello there. How are you, Holly?
I am good,
Glad
thank
to be here.
we are glad to see you. Glad to see you. Well, July is Disability Pride Month, and we are excited to hear your story and to hear how you journeyed into community development and how your current story has everything to do with your past of your construction company and all the things that you were doing well before this time. So, I would like to introduce Mr. Mark Irvin. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, Mark Irvin here. I'm a real estate broker and a general contractor. We're doing some small scale real estate development currently and having a good time at it. And you were talking about some of my past that led to this. That's like and disability month. And look, let's see. Can you see I'm sitting in my wheelchair? I am very new to a wheelchair. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
I have I had an injury sustained C5 through C7 neck injury October 1, 22.
Mm.
So when I last looked, somebody said, "Mark, you really can't be counting the days, can you? 9 months and 28 days
Wow.
since
Wow.
injury." Now,
Mhm.
uh, I've been in the real estate, the construction industry a long time. And when 2003 is when I started the company KC Mass Services. And I had just married my wife,
Mhm.
Sharon, who's awesome. And even
Mhm.
if she's not in the room, she's amazing, right?
I know
But
that's right.
I married I married her in 2003 and I had a hip replacement the following year. And just because that hip replacement got botched up in the surgery, I didn't want to, be begging my wife, Sharon, help me do this, help me do that, because, they got that annulment and that send back, because damaged goods. I didn't want her to run that one on me, right? So I fell coming out of the shower. I didn't damage myself, but I broke up a shower door. And being in the construction industry, I felt like, wow, if I could grab onto a shower door and think that that shower door, that handle is capable for me to hold and it's not, and it breaks, what about other people in their homes that may have a mobility issue, maybe aging or with a slight disability? So what that did for us is it caused me to just go ahead. We changed our company from doing mid to higher end remodeling kitchens and baths and regular construction to focused on home modifications for people with disabilities and aging in place. And I jumped in all the way in. We were the pioneers of home modification and adaptation for people with disabilities. Had a great run at it. And I tell you, uh, I'm having a flashback right now because all the years of from 2003 to 2013 doing home modifications and then switching over to the nonprofit space, trying to educate young people about STEM related careers and opportunities. I moved out of the seat for home modifications and let somebody else run that operation. Now, here we are, all the way up in
Mhm.
2022. Many years later, I fall and break my neck. And I know I'm smiling about it now. It's just because I think my recovery is, people and my doctors and everybody says, Mark, you're doing remarkable. So and I feel really good. I feel really good. But I was talking to my lawyer, not about anything suing or anything,
Uh-huh.
right? But I was talking to my lawyer friend, and he was telling me, he's like, Mark, it must have been like Ichabod Crane or something for you to, it's like I blinked my eyes because years ago you were doing home modifications and adaptations for people with disabilities. And here you are with a broken neck and you're needing all of those
Mhm.
things
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
He's like, what serendipity is that? This is just
Yeah.
unbelievable. So, man, here I am today doing back we did full circle for that construction. I hear my wife walking in through the room here, so
Hey.
it's, she said, "Hey, hey," and I did say how amazing you are too.
Absolutely.
So here we are many years later, and that's the business full circle that I'm into. And I'm now a larger, louder
Yeah.
voice with adaptation and advocating for people with disabilities. It's unbelievable the things that I encounter now that I'm in a
Hmm.
wheelchair and seeing how doors and entries and openings,
Hmm.
non-accessible. Had no clue just walking through doors myself until now in a chair. I mean, even in new public
Right.
places, I find that they don't have auto door openers on there. It's really a challenge. Really a
So
challenge.
July is Disability Pride Month, as we know, and it marks the anniversary of the legislation of the American Disabilities Act, um, and which was created to help lessen those barriers um, for everyone, and for particularly for our brothers and sisters um, who have a disability. If you don't mind explaining to us, talk to us about your advocacy because, LISC, now, number one, we are created to help communities thrive, particularly those Black and Brown communities, but all communities, and help people and shine a light on policies and just advocacy work for those, for anyone who needs that form of advocacy that I won't say, I would say marginalized. I hate the word marginalized, um, but underrepresented populations. And so, if you don't mind sharing with us some of the things that you encounter in your advocacy, and things that in the housing space, as you know, LISC is that's one of our pillars, affordable housing. And how can housing be affordable if we're not making proper accommodations? So, if you don't mind just expounding on some of those thoughts and your thoughts, and what we can do um, as better members of our community in the community development space to create better accommodations.
Well, first off, you are so right. Most people don't know how limited accessible housing is for people with disabilities. And we look at the existing housing stock. Most of the housing stock in Kansas City was built prior to 1945 in that era. And the doors are small, narrow doors. So a lot of times, renovators, rehabbers, we want to renovate the existing housing stock. And some renovators are doing a really good job. We have some really good community development partners in the community doing great work, as you know, from your position at LISC. But the thing about it is, with narrow doors, steps and entries, those are barriers to getting into these older homes. I think that a community as a whole, whereas in the community development space, namely, that we should spend more effort and get some more resources applied toward building new housing, some new housing stock, some infill housing stock. And if we could balance it out with some new housing stock, it does have to be incentivized before, because people with disabilities, a lot of
Mhm.
people, their employment, they have employment issues.
Absolutely.
Because, for example, I'll give you a good example. A person sitting in a wheelchair that has to be in a wheelchair all day, they have to take breaks more often than a person who is not using a wheelchair. You have to do pressure relief, whereas you have to stop and just do all kind of different contortions in the chair,
Uh-huh.
just so you don't end up with pressure sores and wounds.
Yeah.
Uh, then medical conditions. I mean, we're going pretty intimate here, but bowel and bladder program issues.
Mhm.
For people in a wheelchair, that may blow their whole day,
Mhm.
whereas they may not be able to show up for work. So maybe remote work is a better space for them.
Mhm.
So maybe the community in whole and employers can maybe figure out ways to create employment opportunities for
Mhm.
people with physical disabilities, namely people in wheelchairs that are wheelchair. I hate the word wheelchair bound.
Yeah.
That's probably the first time I've used that, and I don't know if I can even remember.
Yeah.
But you have to, you pretty much stand in a wheelchair. Uh, Parking spaces.
Yes.
It is it's so disturbing
Yeah.
to see a person just pull up to a parking space. Now, we never know what type of disability, because I mean, when I looked at a census
Mhm.
data on something like 2019, it was 21% of Kansas City's population has a disability.
Mhm.
So even though a person pulls up to a parking space and they're not physically disabled,
Mhm.
we never know what type of disability that they have, right? But
Absolutely.
to pull into the space and even not even put up a placard or not have a tag on their plate
Yeah.
to indicate anything about a disability, and here we are rolling up in there with wheelchairs stuffed in the back of the SUV and have to go park in a regular space or block traffic to maneuver. It is
Mhm.
so disturbing. And parking spaces, that's a big issue. Also, another thing I'll tell you, Holly, is going into establishments, public
Oh yeah.
establishments, and there not being a button to open up the door.
Right.
It's like, wow,
Mhm.
something that simple, especially when you have establishments that have more than one door, entry door. I can understand that the older buildings, older establishments, sometimes they even have a barrier for where you have to ramp in or whatever.
Right.
But to not have an access button to come in independently. And the thing about it is, although public access is supposed, there's a law that says that public accommodations need to be adhered to.
Yes.
There, that little word that goes in front of it, reasonable
Reasonable. Right.
accommodations.
Yes.
Reasonable. So if a person says, well, in my gym, my public gym, I only have 50 members here, and only one
Mhm.
person's coming through here with a disability, and we have one door. Our one door, we can't afford to put that a door opener on there. So here's what we'll
Yeah.
do. When that one person comes, we hope somebody's there to help let them in. It's
Right.
about the best they can do. That's it's I can't even believe myself being short-winded, short words on thinking about
Yeah.
all that has to be dealt with.
Yeah. It seems like, I know people get on bandwagons about months. Like I've said this in this podcast numerous occasions. Like, with Black History Month, Black History Month isn't just February, it's you're black all year, right? Women's History Month, the same. It's not just March. You're a woman all year, all your life, you know what I mean? And that is the problem with these particular months, right? Like Disability Pride Month, July, and X, Y, and Z. But you've highlighted the fact that we still have a very long way to even consider reasonable accommodations. Um, but you still have hope in everything that you do. I like just talking to you yesterday in our pre-podcast discussion, and even in this conversation. Like I think the main theme that I have gathered from you is hope. And so, other than shining a light on we need more accommodations, what else can community members, how else can we help to extend that reasonable accommodation word in that legislation? What else can we do? Whether that is if you work like us in the community development space, or like you used to work in the real estate area, what what do you think? Just how can we help? How best can we show up?
You know, being advocates, co-advocates along with us. You are right. I do have a lot of hope about uh, things being on a more positive outcome, even from having a disability, using a wheelchair now. It's just
Yeah.
replacement for my legs for now. There's a chance I might have a recovery, as I shared with you yesterday, 20% chance. Everybody's not probably in that mindset, but that's okay. But the thing about it is, I believe that people like the leader over at LISC, Jeff,
Uh-huh.
on occasions, whereas that guy, he's a real champion, a real champion. Uh, uh, Showing up to opportunities, whereas there's opportunities to speak to our city council and public, where there's a good public ear, whereas there's
Mhm.
resources sometimes, or town hall meetings, whereas people that are physically disabled or give a platform and an opportunity to speak about what we need as far as access and getting into buildings and out of buildings and making it accessible for us to
Mhm.
uh, have a reasonable accommodation. It is so
Mhm.
needed. And I think a lot of times what happens is people just kind of forget about
Mm.
it's almost like a person with a disability becomes invisible
Yeah.
because what happens is when we go out into public spaces and we can't get in a place, it makes you not want to go. When you go to a restaurant and the tables and the aisles are too tight. So if we just start going down a list, if we go into in a restaurant for the restaurateur, maybe that they space out the area to where it is able for a wheelchair person to navigate through
Mhm.
the restaurant.
Mhm.
Uh, Even in using a public restroom inside some of these facilities.
Mhm.
I figure I'm pretty strong, pretty physically capable, although I'm paralyzed what's called from chest down. I have my arms and my hands, and I'm pretty capable of using my arms and hands. But I still have problems going in and out of the restroom with the wheelchair. You push the door open, you
Mhm.
bang into it, move your feet back and hope you don't touch, bang your
Mhm.
feet up. And I've seen some other people do the same thing who have been in chairs a lot longer.
Mhm.
So I mean, they're small things, but they make huge differences for
Absolutely.
persons that are in a wheelchair. Uh, barrier removal,
Mhm.
just barrier removal in a whole lower thresholds, just to be able to get into a place. Levers on the doors,
Mhm.
automatic door openers,
Mhm. Mhm.
oh,
So
on and on and on.
so hypothetically, hopefully we have some
Okay.
developers out there who are listening to this podcast. Shout out to the developers in Kansas City in the region. We appreciate you. Um, what are some of the things, and you mentioned this yesterday in our pre-podcast discussion, um, just checking out different homes and different apartments and things of that nature and noticing uh, just the fundamental things that are missing.
Yes. Right. Okay. Just to reflect on what we talked about yesterday, pre-Super Bowl, because my wife asked me, she said, Mark, let's go out here and look at this new apartment, brand new apartment. Really nice, the way to market it. We go in, go down the hallway, it's spacious. The halls are nice and wide. It has all of the amenities that you could imagine. It's like,
Uh-huh.
oh my God, this might be heaven. We go inside the apartment. It's got luxury vinyl tile entering.
Hmm.
But as soon as you go into the bedroom, thick plush carpet, thick plush carpet and a wheelchair user. That's like oil and water. It doesn't
Uh-huh.
mix. It doesn't go together. I'm sitting there pushing and I'm heaving around through there, trying to navigate through the a thick carpet. Then when you look into the bathroom, nice, beautiful shower door, plate glass, looks so beautiful. You can even see the grab bar from outside the bathroom where you're looking straight back. But as soon as you
Hmm.
go into the bathroom, you see the shower has a 5-inch threshold on it. to
Mm.
get in. Then a glass door swings out up against the wall. The handle holds it out about 5 inches away from the wall. The grab bar is clear on the other side of the inside wall of the shower. The place
Mhm.
looks fabulous, but it is not accessible. Then when we go out, let's just go out into the kitchen. See, I love to cook. I
Uh-huh.
love to cook. So we go into the kitchen, and the kitchen stove has the controls on the back. Okay, who's thought of that? Reach up over the hot
Mhm.
fire to turn the knobs on to the fire, to the burners,
Mhm. Mhm.
instead of front mount controls. The refrigerator has split doors. It could have a freezer down below, whereas you could drawer pull out and access it. Maybe even a small. It did have a smaller refrigerator in there, but they had that in there as wine coolers. Because you could
Yeah.
always just see the wine racks.
Yeah.
Okay, uh, the bathroom. It was a two-bedroom, fabulous big. I think 1,200 square feet, two bedroom,
Okay.
two bath.
Mhm.
That's good size. Okay.
That is a nice
The
size.
bathroom the bathroom for the second bedroom, I had to back into it because the vanity and the wall was that narrow. And I have a really super light wheelchair. When I ordered my wheelchair, I wanted it super light. It's narrow, 28 inches wide, because doorways, ADA
Yeah.
normal is 36 inches wide, but they let you get by with a 32-inch wide. So I'm 28
Right.
inches wide. But to be able to manually go into a space, you have to have some elbow space. So you still got to just kind of tweak it back. Then the vanity sits too close to the toilet stool. So if you don't navigate it right, you hit your spine on the
Mm.
edge of the vanity trying to get to the toilet. There
Mm.
needs to be a person
Mm.
that is in a wheelchair that knows how to communicate. And I'm on this run myself to help designers, architects, developers. I'm in the development space myself. I've shared with
Mhm.
you we're
Yeah.
going to be building some accessible homes ourselves
Yeah.
to help appoint these properties to make these dwellings accommodating for a person with disability. As I was sharing with you yesterday, prior to my injury,
Yeah.
I have a parcel of land
Mhm.
that we're parsing out to whereas it was going to be three really super nice, cool houses with even a patio deck on top of the garage,
Mhm.
but small, quaint, making it affordable
Mhm.
because we're still going to be in the, 1,500 square foot
Yeah.
and below.
Yeah.
Now, since the injury and now knowing about so much lack of accessibility, I can't do anything but help my community by building accessible homes.
Yeah.
And you can believe me, B, they will be appointed right.
All right. I love it. Any closing comments? Because I know our 20-minute mark just passed, and I promise that we will only take 20 to 30 minutes. Any closing remarks, any closing ideas, anything you want to share with our listeners, our Kansas City regional audience, anything you want to share?
Provide more accessible housing,
That's it.
affordable, accessible housing
Hmm.
for people with disabilities. Also, public accommodations, put door openers on these doors so people can get
Yeah.
in and out of. Also, make give some type of incentive for a person to even modify their existing home, whether it be widen the entry door
Mm.
of their home or their bathroom. The city of Kansas City had a home modification
Mhm.
program because we used to participate in it, and they kind of pulled the plug on it or it's probably more of a challenge to enter it, to access it.
Mhm.
But widening doors to the bathroom and the entry. and ramps to homes.
Mhm.
It's a tremendous value. And real quickly, I was just talking to one of the board chairs of the Spinal Cord
Yeah.
Association. We were out at an event the other night,
Yeah.
and he was telling me even in the city of like Olathe, they have like a $5,000 stipend that they make available for people to reappoint their home.
Mhm.
$5,000 will barely buy you the lumber for a wheelchair ramp today. I mean,
If that, right?
I don't know. Yeah, that's right. It's really, it just takes more of us as advocates. And
Mhm.
you'll hear more of me and see more of me out in our community advocating for people with disabilities. And I thank you for the opportunity of visiting with you today and meeting with you today to talk about this a little bit. Uh,
Yeah.
and I'll come back if you allow me to one day.
I was gonna say, well, Mark, you know you have a platform whenever you need it. Anytime you want to jump on this Community Wise podcast to discuss something specific, regarding affordable accommodations and affordable housing and all of this, the things that LISC stands for in community development and all of our pillars, we are here. We are your partner. We wish you well in your recovery. Um, Anything you need from us, for literally anything,
All
you
right.
got it. And
Okay.
I'm
Thank you.
happy to share this platform with you. Hey, even we can have a Mark Irvin takeover of Community Wise Podcast where it's you hosting, if you think of something, yeah, you got it. But
All right, I will. Real. Thank you again, Holly. I look forward to
yeah,
it. More opportunities to visit with you.
yes, indeed. Well, that's this month's Community Wise Podcast. We thank you for joining us. End of the day, we have to do more for everyone. We talk and we preach about helping communities thrive. And this is one aspect that how we can, just the littlest things that we can do, can add up to be great big changes. So I encourage all of our developer friends, all of our friends in housing, even our business owners who are listening, listen to Mark. He is speaking from experience, but not only that, he has the history as a person in development, as a person in who's had his own construction company, who was really foreshadowing or had the foresight, I will say this, for this vision prior to anything that happened within the last 9 months. We encourage more of our supporters to think ahead and be true advocates. So, Mark, thank you so much for being an advocate. We appreciate you.
Thank you again, Holly.
All
And to
right.
throw out just one last thing, if
Yeah, it's
those
your time.
developers and those developers and listening partners need an advocate, a consultant, I can do Zoom or site on site. I know the rules of all built environment that comes down to accessibility. I've taught classes and created curriculum for accessibility. KC Mass Service is a shameless plug, but
Yes,
here we are.
plug it.
Thank you again.
and and
All
what's
right.
that website? Or what's the phone number that
Case,
if anyone,
yeah, the website is kcmass.net, kcmass.net. Phone number direct 816-786-5163.
you heard it there, contact them. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a good day.